Today we're going to do a pick a card reading with the intention of getting information from your body. So essentially it's like a body wisdom pick a card reading. Now, so I guess another way to say this would be what your body wants you to know at the time you view this video. Now, when I do body wisdom readings, there certainly is like a physical focus, or there can be. So it might be getting more information from your body about what your physical body actually needs from you or is trying to tell you. But I also believe our body holds wisdom about other aspects of our life as well. And so you might tune into this reading for, again, information about how you can heal or move forward, move towards more health in your physical body. But if that's not resonating with you, but you're still drawn to this reading, it could be simply but powerfully a body wisdom reading for other parts of your life. So take it how it resonates. Regardless, I would encourage you now to tune into whether you are drawn to card 1 here or card 2. And I guess I'll let you in on something really quick. So sometimes I look at the cards beforehand when I do pick a card reading. Sometimes I don't. I have not looked at these beforehand. However, guess what? 2 came out for both. So that was interesting to me. So it's actually pick your pile, I guess. Okay, so at this point, pause this video. Notice which pile is calling you, pile 1 or pile 2. And then once you know, you can come back and we'll do the reading for both of these piles, and I will timestamp each pile's reading in the description. Okay, pause this now. See you at your reading. Hi, welcome back. This reading's for you if you chose pile 1. So let's see what these cards are to start. So we're going to do look at these 2 cards. We're also going to pull a Divine Feminine Oracle card for a clarifier, and then we'll do the book method of divination with intuitive eating. Okay, the Queen of Pentacles and the 3 of Pentacles in reverse. Wow, look at how beautiful these cards are. Aren't they just gorgeous? That Queen of Pentacles is just wildly gorgeous. All right, so let's draw a clarifier here. Like I said, we're going to use the Divine Feminine Oracle. Whoa, they're ready to talk for a clarifier. So a clarifier, please, for pile 1. Body wisdom. There it is. I also feel like this one wants to be out. Oh my goodness, we've got 3. Let's go with it. Okay. So we've got Lilith, the first woman. I am the voice. Oh, that's wild. I'm the voice of my body and soul. I choose the life I desire to live. That's sort of weird. Oh my gosh, and look at the subtle purples playing off of these flowers. I have to tell you about these flowers. So this is like, you may have seen these flowers in other videos, more fully bloomed. And then yesterday, I noticed all the full blooms were like falling off, and I noticed the beauty of how these so it like revealed that these are all like tight and bound up, and then they slowly like unravel. Like, look at how beautiful that is. And then they wanted to be filmed. I know that sounds weird, but I have to tell you, these readings come via the flowers or the natural elements. Like I'm drawn to certain flowers or natural elements, and it's almost like they're asking me to be filmed and when. So I had this arrangement out on my kitchen table for probably 3 days where it was more fully in bloom, and I didn't feel like it was supposed to be filmed. And then again, after like the big blooms came off, I put them in a floating dish, and maybe I'll actually do a reading with that one. So look out like a reading or 2 after this one. You'll see them, some of them like in a floating in water. But then again, what really wanted to be filmed was this tight bud and like the unraveling of these tight buds. Okay, so now as I'm saying all that, because like, why am I talking about all this? I'm not exactly sure, except for, I think it's wild that this card has the exact coloring of these flowers. It says, I'm the voice of my body and soul when we're doing like a body wisdom reading. And so now what is coming to me is there's that quote, and it goes something like, you know what, maybe I'll just look it up so I actually get it right, because it's such a powerful quote. Okay, so give me a moment. Okay, I found it. So it's a quote by Anais Nin, and it goes, "And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Life is a process of becoming, a combination of states we have to go through. Where people fail is that they wish to elect a state and remain in it. This is a kind of death. Living never wore out, living never wore one out so much as the effort not to live. Life is truly known only to those who suffer, lose, endure adversity, and stumble from defeat to defeat. Perfection is static, and I am in full progress. Abnormal pleasures kill the taste for the normal ones." Whoa, that's powerful, isn't it? So again, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. So I don't think this is like, it says, life is truly known only to those who suffer. And so this isn't like a call to suffering, but I think it is a call to evolve, right? To move beyond what you've known before. So Lilith, the first woman, "I am the voice of my body and soul. I choose the life that I desire to live." Wow. The green Tara, and I'm not sure if it's Tara, the green Tara maybe. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. "The Buddha of enlightened action. My soul informs my every step. I do what my heart compels me to do." Wow, maybe we'll just put these right here for now. And then, I'm not sure how to pronounce this one, so I'll just go with the English version. "The diamond-hearted Dakini." The diamond-hearted Dakini. If you listen to my to my videos, you know that I have trouble pronouncing things, so my apologies. "I see the light in my own darkness. I face my ego beliefs to feel free." Wow, these are powerful. Okay. So then we have the Queen of Pentacles and the Three of Pentacles in reverse, clarifying all this. So, I mean, I do think the overarching message is what we talked about with the flowers, that there is this call for you to recognize that that remaining tight in a bud might be causing more suffering than the actual process of blooming now. So that could have something to do with your body, and it could have something again to do with other aspects of life. Again, this is a body wisdom reading, so to me that is just like getting information, what our body wants us to know, but it's not always about our body, right? Now, as I say that, I think it's helpful to recognize that, we don't remain tight in a bud for no good reason. We remain tight in a bud because maybe the environment wasn't conducive for us to bloom yet, or maybe we weren't ready to bloom. Like, for example, is this bud here or this one here, is it like worse than this one because it's not blooming yet? No, it's just not ready. Do you know what I'm saying? But I think this is a call to recognize that you might be ready. So you might be ready to blossom, which is very, very exciting. And when we get Lilith as your first clarifying card, and to be honest, I'm almost feeling like the Divine Feminine cards are more powerful, and maybe the tarot cards are more clarifying. So I'm just feeling like, let's talk about the Divine Feminine and then let's get into the tarot. So with that being said, Lilith, the first woman, "I'm the voice of my body and soul. I choose the life I desire to live." So I think part of what the message of this card is like the rebirth that you are either in the midst of or being invited to embark on is really about listening to yourself. And that includes listening to, look at here. "My soul informs my every step. I do what my heart compels me to do." So it's like listening to all aspects of yourself, your heart, your soul, your body. Do you know what I mean? It's about reclaiming your voice, your sacred, like each of us has this like innate right to be who we are. Right. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of this interview I just recently listened to. It was by or I can't remember who the interviewer was, but the interviewee was Zach Bush. He's a medical doctor that has really lovely, like holistic. He's got a great. He's not like a straight up Western medical doctor. However, he was trained in that and had to leave that paradigm to find a more comprehensive one that felt more coherent. So it's interesting actually that I bring him up in a body wisdom reading. So maybe there's something here about looking him up, especially if you are, looking for some like actual healing in terms of your body. I look him up, look up him in interviews, look up his website. He has a lot of amazing resources plus products and services. With that being said, though, in this particular interview, he was talking about how when he was in Western medicine, he did a lot of, I believe, palliative care and hospice. And so he also did a lot of like birthing women. So he has this like this experience of birth and death, right? And which is what we're talking about here. Like in order to what did that quote say? In order to like truly live, we have to be willing to have parts of us die, to have past parts die. In order to truly blossom, we have to unravel, right? And so what he was saying in that particular interview that I found just fascinating is that, and maybe if I can find it, I'll link it up. I'll do my best to do that. But he was saying that that as a hospice and palliative care doctor, he's seen a lot of like near-death experiences. So people who die supposedly medically and then come back. And he said what none of them lose is sense of self. So they lose their attachment to their body. They lose, they can't bring their money with them. They can't bring any of their material belongings, of course. But they all know who they are. So they never lose a sense of self. So he was talking about how death transcends, self transcends death. So like, let's just think about that for a second. Self transcends death. So if there's anything that is worth cultivating, it is our sense of self. It's self-discovery. It's self-reflection. It's building our sense of self so we know who we truly are. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's certainly a call to this. And I mean, it relates directly to that, the risks it took to remain tight in a bud was now causing more suffering than the risk it took to blossom. You know what I mean? And I think that like, this is definitely a call to begin to listen more to what all those aspects of yourself are saying, your body, your soul, your heart, and to begin to then not only listen, but baby step by baby step, embody and take action, give voice to, right? Now, this is interesting. Okay, so then we have, the diamond-hearted Dakini, the diamond-hearted Dakini. I see the light in my own darkness. I face my ego beliefs to feel free. So I think what this is telling me is like, as we do that, as we really truly begin to listen to ourselves, again, all the different aspects of who we are, what are our emotions saying to us? What are our desires trying to tell us? What are our fears trying to tell us? What's our body trying to tell us? As we begin to listen instead of suppress, then the beauty of that, and I think this is like, look at the imagery on this card, it is showing the beauty in it. But also the difficulty is that we have to face where we are holding ourselves back, right? So we have to face our own ego beliefs in order to be set free. Now, that's not necessarily easy, but it is powerful, right? So you have this incredibly empowering and powerful reading here. What your body wants you to know this at the time you view this video is you are ready to embark on a new version of yourself. You're ready to embody a new version of yourself. And it's a version that aligns with who you truly are more than maybe these ego beliefs. the ego beliefs aren't our fault. They were how we were conditioned by our culture and our subcultures and our families, institutions and organizations we were part of. They're not our fault, right? But they are our responsibility to process and then look at and then consciously decide if we want to keep them or not. And I think that's a big aspect of your reading here, that you are being called to align more with your true north, so to speak, and not the way, not the aspects of ourself that we think are a personality, but really are just, again, more cultural, more specific to how we had to behave in families and groups that we were a part of before. And I guess that goes right into now this Three of Pentacles in reverse. I think what that is clarifying, so Three of Pentacles upright can be like really positive collaborations in the tangible sense. So in reverse, what it's telling me is that there might be some groups, some collaborations, some connections that you need to look seriously at with open eyes to see if they really are in alignment with where you truly want to go and who you truly are. So there might, again, be some ego beliefs that you're facing. And then as you face those, there's things that we create from those beliefs, like tangible relationships, tangible collaborations, that then have to be looked at, and again, looked at with open eyes to see if we really want to continue. Now, look, it's so interesting. So there's just like things I notice about these cards every time I do readings that are just amazing. So like, look at this. I've never noticed Three of Pentacles. So when it's upright, the green is at the bottom here. And then now when it's in reverse, it's right there. And look at how it matches this card, the Buddha of Enlightened Action. It's just like cool validation. I'm just trying to see too if there's any message in that. Well, I think the message is that without being willing to, so we have to face within, right? We'd face ourselves, but then we also have to then make tangible changes in our external life when we feel ready for that. And I think what she's saying is, or what this is saying, this goddess, I guess, and then with the green here, is that like that without doing that, it can really block our expression of who we actually are. So isn't it interesting too, like, the Three of Pentacles, I ended up putting on these two cards, and this is a card of action, and this is a card of facing beliefs. And then it's kind of clarifying these two, which is essentially like, once you do that, you're going to have to make some tangible changes in terms of your collaborations and connections. Just fascinating. Okay, so let's go to the Queen of Pentacles here, clarifying the first woman and the Buddha of Enlightened Action. Well, this is just like... this is just like beautiful clarification. Who doesn't want to be the Queen of Pentacles, right? So we're talking especially too about a body reading, right? We're using the Divine Feminine deck to clarify or to get information from our body. And this is the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen. So it's the feminine version of how to embody a really healthy life physically, because Pentacles represent the physical aspects of life. So it is things like physical health and money and time and just like what it takes to be a human. You know what I mean? So Queen of Pentacles typically is really, really beautiful energy. And this is like what I am getting from this card today, just beauty. So it's beauty, but it's also like sustainability and it's groundedness. And so it's definitely, clarifying these two, I just think it's almost obvious. So it's almost like the same energy in terms of like really embodying who you are as a feminine creature, as a spiritual creature, as a physical creature, as an emotional creature, as a creative creature. It's really about honoring the fact that your self energy is needed and important. And until again, we see that we were intended to be unique expressions of that which is God, that which is Mother God, that which is Spirit. We're intended to be these unique expressions. And if our ego beliefs, if our cultural beliefs, if our subcultural beliefs are blocking that, then Queen of Pentacles can never emerge. Do you know what I mean? Sure, we could maybe make a lot of money or something like that, but the essence of Queen of Pentacles, which is sustainability and true beauty and groundedness and freedom, can never be unlocked without the embodiment of our true self, the dissolving, so to speak, of the ego beliefs that are blocking our true self. And so there's just like, there is an, I mean, like, I just feel it. There's this immense call or invitation. It's really beautiful to, like a permission slip to step more into who you truly are and to explore that. So with that being said, let's do one final message. We're going to do the book method of divination. And I picked this up like this. So we're just going to go right to this page and see what intuitive eating has to say for us. So, oh, and by the way, if you've never read this book, it's really amazing. Absolutely life-changing book on my journey. Is certainly in terms of how I care for and relate to my physical body, but then how we care for and relate to our physical bodies trickles into all aspects of our life. So it's been a life-changing book. I would highly recommend it. Okay, so I open to Beyond Physical Fitness. Is there anything wrong with wanting to work out more to feel good? No. Just be careful that you do not fall into the dieting weight loss trap where you become a slave to working out and counting calories burned. We have found that increasing exercise can be a way to channel anxiety while becoming an intuitive eater. Intuitive eating can feel foreign, and progress may feel slow in the beginning, especially when the world around you is dieting or extolling the latest food plan. I don't know what extolling is. I've never heard that word before, but probably like promoting. Exercise allows you to feel that you are actively doing something to improve your health. You feel the benefits. It's one thing to invest several hours in training if you are getting ready for a marathon or because you are an athlete. It's a problem, however, when exercise consumes you and begins to interfere with your everyday living. Exercising more isn't necessarily better. How do you know if you're reaching the outer limits of exercise? Signs of compulsive exercise include inability to stop even when you are sick or injured, feeling guilty if you miss a single day, inability to sleep at night, a sign of overtraining, paying exercise penance for the perception of eating too much, such as running an extra 3 miles because you ate a piece of pie, being afraid that you will suddenly gain weight if you stop for a single day. And I'm going to continue here. Remember rest. The hardest lesson that I think E.T. must mean, there's 2 authors of this, so this must mean Evelyn, learned as a competitive marathoner was that rest was as important as training. It is also hard for our clients to recognize the tenet of training. Similarly, if for some reason you are unable to work out on a particular day, it does not mean that you will suddenly become unfit. Some clients fear that once they stop exercising, they will not continue. That's all or none thinking, commonly seen in dieters. There's an easy way to prove to yourself that no exercise today does not mean no exercise forever. Simply resume exercise when you are able. This is nice, right? The more you reinitiate an exercise program after a break from it, the more confidence you will have in your ability to continue exercising, even if it's been a few days. After a while, it stops being a big issue or worry. Besides, this time it's different. You are not dieting, therefore it will be much easier to resume training. Okay, so this is pretty powerful. So let's just kind of debrief this a little. So I think there's something here that when you are more willing to connect with yourself and what your body is actually telling you versus like these outside rules, there's going to be, again, changes. So 3 of Pentacles in reverse is, like changes in what you do in the tangible sense. So I mentioned it more in terms of like collaborations and connections, but it's also just like in the tangible sense, how you're actually caring for yourself and your physical body. And a lot of how we've been taught to quote unquote care for ourselves isn't necessarily care. and is actually can be detrimental to our body and therefore our spirit and our emotional selves as well. So I think there's going to be like this, as you're blossoming, as you're like allowing yourself to go from this tight bud to begin to express more, there's going to be a recalibration that happens not only with your physical body, but in terms of your actual physical habits. And that can be unsettling for like the ego part of us that maybe took up certain diet plans or rules that we have for ourselves that feel like we're keeping ourselves safe. And it can be like, whoa, if I don't have this, if I don't, like they gave the example of exercise too much. And that might not be, you might not be a compulsive exerciser. P.S. I definitely was. So if you are, I understand that journey. But I think this is more, you can generalize this to just like any rules you have about life, right? For your physical body or otherwise, you're going to be asked to question a bit, because when we go from the ego beliefs, so ego beliefs are very controlled and controlling. They're typically externally focused, right? Like how many pounds you'll drop or how much money you'll make or something like that. To truly listening to ourselves and our bodies, the more intuitive approach, there's questioning that has to be done. There is a lot that has to be reworked. And suddenly it's like you might have thought, for example, again, this is just an example that you can generalize, but that exercising more was always better. And then suddenly it's like a complete 180 and you think, whoa, maybe I need to rest more, as they were alluding to here. And then I think that's kind of what the center of the reading here is speaking to, right? The Buddha of enlightened action. So when you go with more of an intuitive approach, it doesn't mean that you don't take action, right? But your actions change. They're different than when you're not tapped into who you are and your desires and your soul voice and your body. I know that was really interesting for me, or it still is, frankly, but the idea that maybe my body didn't want exercise every day was was a foreign concept to an old version of myself. Do you know what I mean? And still is uncomfortable to me in certain seasons or moments where like I thought I was going to work out, but now I really just want to rest. And as I say all this, I saw something on Instagram the other day. I'm going to pull it up quick because it's kind of it's about work, but it's a similar kind of like a shift in how we view it. So this is a quote by Nicola Jane Hobbs, and it says, instead of asking, have I worked hard enough to deserve rest, ask, have I rested enough to do my most loving, meaningful work? So I think there's like shifts like that you're being invited to have, you're being asked to have, you're being advised to have, you're given a permission slip to have, that are really exciting, because then we can move towards more peace and true joy instead of spinning our wheels in these rules that we think are keeping us safe, but really are just keeping us tight in a bud. And so, I mean, this has just been like a beautiful, powerful, fun reading. I'm like truly so excited for you. And I just like, I'm just like envisioning you. It's like you're right here right now. Do you know what I mean? Like even just listening, being willing to listen to this. It's like you went from that tightness and now you're just like allowing yourself to unravel a little. So may you allow yourself to blossom. I know I want more great people like you to show themselves. And may you also know that you're like held in that process. So it's not always easy, but neither is staying tight in the bud. Do you know what I mean? Like we get to choose our discomforts in life. There's going to be discomfort. And I like the idea. And I think this came from Jen Sincero. I think she said like, so discomfort is inevitable, but what we have the choice to do is choose our discomfort. And so making choices to choose the discomfort that's going to lead to growth is where true beauty and true joy live. And I think that sums up this conversation about the buds, doesn't it? Because staying tight in a bud isn't comfortable either, right? But there is discomfort in allowing ourself to bloom. And so may you choose, oh, look, it just fell. I think that's a great sign. May you choose to blossom. Welcome back. This reading is for you if you chose pile 2. So we're going to look at the 2 cards, the 2 tarot cards that came out. And then we're going to get 2 clarifiers from the Divine Feminine Oracle. Or excuse me, I don't know why I said 2 clarifiers. We'll see how many clarifiers we get, although that might be a message. We're going to get a clarifier or 2 from the Divine Feminine Oracle, and then we'll do the book Method of Divination with that book you just saw called Intuitive Eating. Okay, so let's see what these are. Page of Swords in reverse and the 4 of Swords. Ooh, cool. I love that purple in this Page of Swords, and I love how it plays off these flowers. Okay, so let's get a clarifier or 2 from the Divine Feminine. Clarifier. So we're looking at what your body wants to tell you at the time you view this video. It could be, again, about your physical health, or it could be for any area of your life, because as I mentioned before, I truly believe our body holds so much wisdom, and it's not just compartmentalized to 3. I got 3 on the other reading too. Okay, that's wild. It's not just, it's not just compartmentalized to our physical health. It has wisdom for us in all areas of life. Okay, so let's see what these 3 want to be. It's funny to me sometimes when I, like, what I think these readings are going to be and then what they turn into. Okay, so we have the Mystic of Divine Love. Love is divine, and I am nothing except love. We have the Apostle to the Apostles. I am the bridge between heaven and earth. I am fully human and fully divine. And then we have the Saint of True Freedom. Love is what sets me free. I am married to my own soul. Wow. Powerful. Holy cow. Okay, so let's start with talking about these sword cards, the tarot cards. So we have the Page of Swords in reverse, and the 4 of Swords upright. So both cards are giving me a similar message, and that is rest. Like, because the shadow aspects of both of these cards can be some form of exhaustion, right? So Page of Swords can be kind of this, like, so if it was upright, it can be kind of this, like, relentless energy. Although, what did I say? Relentful? I almost wonder if what was trying to come through is also resentful. That I don't think really relates to the Page of Swords, but I think maybe there's a message there of, like, if there is resentment, that can be spiritually and mentally exhausting. But what I was saying about the Page of Swords is this relentless energy, like this exhausting, youthful determination, is one way to describe this upright when it's in its, like, shadow aspect. Because the way that I read tarot is I really don't believe there's any good or bad cards. Each card can have shadow aspects and light aspects, and depending on what comes through in each reading is what I read. So I feel like these 2 cards are advice from spirit, or you could about your body, or you could say body wisdom about your life, right? Or what your body is trying to tell you. And that is there's some form of exhaustion that is happening, and so rest is required. But I also think it's very interesting that both of these are sword cards, because what do the swords represent in the tarot? They represent thinking, they represent clear-cut energy, they represent boundaries, they represent strategy. And so I think some of this exhaustion is happening because of some sort of mental toil. Is that resonating? So there's, like, potentially a physical exhaustion, or a physical something happening in your physical body because of this mental toil. And so the advice from spirit, I believe, is to focus on that. And by focus on that, I mean to do what you can to turn to practices, spiritual practices, meditation practices that can help you calm your mind and your nervous system, because this mental toil is causing some some issues, potential, either just in your life and your body is aware of it and wants to give you that message here in this body wisdom reading, or it's literally causing physical issues. So, we are spiritual creatures, we are emotional creatures, we are thinking, creative creatures, we are physical creatures, and all of that, none of that can be fragmented, right? Everything affects everything. And so the strong message here is to start to look at how you are thinking and feeling in terms of your emotions is affecting how you are feeling physically. And whenever you can turn towards rest and stillness and practices that help you with these thought patterns, so that could just be, that could be things like therapy, or, understanding how you're thinking. So processing, do you know what I mean? Like high level processing, healing processing. So talking out what you're thinking with safe people, I think can be really huge. Now, like, look at the underlying cards here. Isn't it wild that they all have the same color scheme? It's like that red, golden, orange, yellow. And so what that is telling me, first is like, it's speaking about your root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus chakra, and your crown chakra. Okay, so your root chakra is like at the base of your tailbone. It's represented by the color red. It's your energy center that deals with it's a foundational energy center that deals with the physical aspects of your life, how you get your physical needs met, okay? The sacral chakra is represented in orange, and it's a space below your belly button in your body. And it's more things like how you flow your creative energy. It's things like how you relate to the energy of desire. So that could be like the sexual energy of desire, but it's also just like, how do you relate to what you want to eat? How do you relate to the goals you have in life? Things of that nature. And then your solar plexus chakra, which is yellow, and that's the space above your belly button, right at the center of your being. That is like your empowerment chakra. So how do you take up space and how are you yielding power or holding your power, affirming your power? And then the crown chakra is that more golden white energy, and that represents like, how are you letting in spiritual insight, right? So there's just like this beautiful like integration of all that here, which I think is very intentional and powerful. It's almost as if your body wants you to know that like, that all of that is happening, because there is something about integration in this reading, because I kind of alluded to it when I was talking about looking at how your thinking is affecting how you feel physically. So the fact that we can't fragment aspects of our being, I think is being represented in the colors here in terms of the chakra. So it's like, if we have this really open, alive crown chakra, but then we've got all these issues with our root level chakras, we're not going to be a thriving being. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we're really looking at all aspects of our life and understanding that getting our physical needs met in a way that's healthy is a very spiritual act, and a very spiritual, it's a spiritual journey to figure out how to do that, right? But then also allowing our crown chakra to be open and to, to bathe in the love, all these cards have like love energies, the divine feminine cards, in the love of Mother God, in the love of spirit, affects our physical body in a really beautiful way. So with that being said, let's go to these divine feminine cards. Let's talk about them a little bit, because they're extremely powerful, not just in their color and symbolism, but like it's very interesting that she's the mystic of divine love. Mary Magdalene is the bridge between heaven and earth. I am fully human. Oh, weird. I'm fully human and fully divine. Like that's what I was just talking about, how we have like crown chakra plus our three lower level chakras. By lower level, that doesn't mean they're less than, it just means they're foundational. They're literally at the bottom, they're grounding, right? And then we have the love is what sets me free. So there's, and it's just so interesting because I listened. Okay, so a couple things are coming to me. One is there's this book by Ernest Holm called Love and Law. I'm gonna find it, and we'll do the book Method of Divination with that as well, because there's something here about love energy. And it's not like romantic love in like the toxic way. It's certainly not that. It's like love as well, now so many things. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my A Course in Miracles book, and we're going to read the introduction to it because it relates to this love message that's coming through. So give me 1 second here. Okay. So bear with me there. I know this might feel a little random, but we'll get to the messages here. So here's the Course in Miracles. This is the introduction. It says, "This is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take in at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." Isn't that so powerful? So, okay. That, I think, is a main message of this reading. And that is that love is the basis. Like, look at these. They're the basis of your reading. And then these feel like the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, these tarot cards. Does that make sense? So and then there is this, again, right in the middle of your reading here is, "I'm the bridge between heaven and earth. I am fully human and fully divine." So there is like this immense call to see yourself that way, to see yourself as fully spiritual and fully physical, and see those things as not fragmented but integrated, and see them as relating to each other. So when there's blocks in our awareness to love's presence, that affects physical aspects of our life. Do you know what I mean? And so there is this this call to see more that you being in love. So something else that was coming to me before I grabbed A Course in Miracles is that just yesterday on a walk, I listened to a video by Paul Selig. And he's a channeler. He channels, quote unquote, the guides. And if I can find it again, I will link it up in the description box. But essentially it was like, it was all about being in love. So not in love in terms of being in like a toxic, romantic, addictive pattern, but like literally basking in the awareness of love, that love is. Do you know what I mean? And to let love tell you what it is, instead of saying, well, this is what love is. So maybe like let's read this introduction one more time and think about being in love. So again, that doesn't mean with another person. You're just like basking in the reality that love is. And anything else is just a block to the awareness of love's presence. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. So like, that's what basically this Paul Selig video was about, or the message. It was like, you don't get to decide what love is. Love knows what it is. And sometimes we have correct perceptions of what love is, and sometimes we have incorrect perceptions of what love is. And when we can let love lead, instead of making all these assumptions about what it is, but we can actually listen to it and ask it what it is, instead of, again, telling it, that's when then we're not trying to establish a curriculum, right? Because when we're trying to tell ourselves all these truths, that's just basically our ego self, trying to stay safe, and it's trying to dictate the curriculum, right? But that's not where any of our free will lies. Us as spiritual human beings, our free will lies in not trying to dictate the curriculum or tell the curriculum what it is, but to listen, to learn from the curriculum, to learn from our life, to allow our life experiences to help us understand the laws of nature, the laws of the universe, that to help us understand what truth and love is. And as A Course in Miracles says here, and what I'm the way I'm trying to practice seeing life is that love is the basis of everything. It's always there. And we can have these blocks up so that we don't feel it and we don't see it. And a lot of those blocks are trying to tell life and love what life and love is, instead of learning from the curriculum and listening. So here we go again. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take in at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way: nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Oh my gosh, this is such a powerful reading. So another message that feels like it's coming through right now after rereading that is just that maybe you've been trying to like cultivate more love in your life, cultivate more joy, cultivate more health, cultivate more of all that is good. And I think what wants to be said, what your body and spirit would like you to know, is that that's a really exhausting way to go about it, because it's not the natural order of things. The natural order of things is that love and health and joy and peace is present. And we just have to look at how we're blocking it. And so I think there's going to be more flow that you unlock. Flow for healing, flow for abundance, flow for anything good. By instead of trying to, again, cultivate it, to instead be willing to look at where you're blocking it and to remove those blocks. And a big part in it, it's a mantra that comes from A Course in Miracles that's been extremely powerful in my life, is it's a willingness mantra. So what I was going to say is a big part of just of removing blocks is just being willing to remove them. Do you know what I mean? And so the mantra that I use a lot in my life, and I have for nearly 2 decades now, is I'm willing to see this differently. So when you're up against difficult things, when you're up against what's causing exhaustion or ill health or lack of resources, to be willing to see it differently. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to tell yourself what it is and what's it about. And usually when we're telling ourselves a story of how bad we are, right? And instead to just be like, I'm willing to see this differently. So to let life and love and God, which are all the same thing, right? Spirit, Mother, God, whatever words you put around that which is, to let it be that which is, and to let it teach you. Because when we're trying to tell that which is, you know what I mean? Like the bigness of that which is, when we're trying to tell it what it is, that is exhausting, right? And so when we're trying to do its job, it's just exhausting. When instead we can realize that our job is just to remove the blocks to the job that it is supposed to do, which is to provide the love and the healing, to tell us what true love is. There's so much freedom in that, and a lot more peace, and way more ease, right? So let's look at this book called Love and Law, since it's by Ernest Holmes. Since love is the basis of your reading. This is just like a powerful reading. So if you are tuning in, if this is resonating, if you're still with me, whoa, you are at a precipice. You are already so known, so powerful. I mean, I believe everyone's known by spirit, but I hope you're seen in all the work that you've already done. You have so much going for you. And this is like just such an incredible invitation and permission slip from spirit that I feel like could remove blocks, like really help you move forward in whatever area of your life has felt stuck. Just such power here. So, okay, Love and Law by Ernest Holmes. Let's see what wants to be said from this book. That doesn't feel right. Give me a second here. Okay. Let's try again. Let's see. Okay, that feels better. Never forget this. God does not make evil. We make all that we experience of evil, and since we make it, we have got to unmake it. Oh my gosh, you cannot make this up. Holy cow. That's basically what we just talked about with the intro to the Course of Miracles, where like you can't teach love. You can only experience love, but we just have to look at how we're blocking it, right? So God is, and that actually comes from A Course in Miracles. It says something along the lines of like, God is, and then you cease to speak, because that's the best way to describe God, is just God is. And so we can block the awareness that God is, but there isn't the difficult things in our life they still have the source of, or how do I want to put it? There isn't a source of evil. There's not two sources of life. God is the source of life, and we can block it. And then we experience what might feel like, what Ernest Holmes here is like labeling evil or difficulty or darkness, right? But there's not a source to that. It's just the blocking. So, wow, this is wild. Okay, so let's read this again. And I'll read a little more here too. Never forget this. God does not make evil. We make all that we experience of evil. And since we make it, we have got to unmake it. It is something that contradicts life. Life cannot produce death. Take this war, for instance. God did not make this war. God will never unmake this war. Since God did not make it, we might pray forever, and it will not stop the war if we were to pray to God to stop it. If that kind of prayer would stop it, it would be stopped. All civilized world is praying for the war to stop, whether they call themselves Christians or not. There is a ceaseless prayer going up to what we call God. We do not care who it is that is praying. And if God hears, and if God answers, and God must hear, if it is God, the war would stop. We made the war, and we have to finish it ourselves. This is reasonable, and God plays no part in it whatsoever. That must be true. And there is not truth on earth. God does not work destructively. That would teach us this lesson, and believe me, it is a lesson it is teaching the world this minute, and it will change the whole philosophy of the world. They will have an entirely different sort of God after this war is over, an entirely different God. Have you read some of the new literature since the war began, especially by Wells? I'm not sure which war he's talking about. He's not still living, so he wrote many of these books a long time ago, but we'll continue. So just war in general, we can think about. And maybe, okay, so especially by Wells, he is writing a new article in the Republic, a new book. In this story is a man who is supposed to meet God and ask God, and God says, let men settle that among themselves. That is man's business. People are changing their minds about God, and so we are compelled to state the fact that evil is the creation of our own false consciousness. Boom. Page of Swords in reverse, Four of Swords. False consciousness. So that would be the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And I'll read that again. People are changing their minds about God, and so we are compelled to state that the fact that evil is the creation of our own false consciousness. And since it is useless to pray to God to stop evil. We have got to stop evil. God is good and complete and perfect. Evil will only destroy itself. Wow. Now, if you're getting like, I know some of these words are kind of like heavy, like even in A Course in Miracles, like the use of the word God. So God and evil. It can just be like, whoa, I thought I was tuning into what my body wanted me to know. So it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be so like black or white or dark or heavy or intense. What I feel like is very clear that's being said is just, I guess as I say that, I do think there is a call here to invest in your spirituality, your spiritual practices, into changing your mind maybe about how you see yourself. Maybe you're someone has seen themselves more just like as a physical being. And so being willing to explore the more spiritual side, I think, is something that's coming up in this reading. But like when it says evil, I just think if there is evil, it's just when we are unconscious of what we're doing that are harming people, right? And harming ourselves. And so it's just and that's what he's saying. He's basically saying exactly what A Course in Miracles says. Like God does not harm. God is love. And so anything that we're experiencing that isn't love is simply but powerfully just a block to the awareness of love's presence. And so when we can turn our focus in that direction, and we can understand that that's our goal. So we don't have to cultivate love. We don't have to author love. We don't have to author the curriculum of life. We just have to listen instead of tell. And we have to be willing to look at these blocks and do what we need to do to dissolve them. And a lot of dissolving can happen just through processing with safe people, processing in safe environments, processing what's happened to us, processing what we think, processing our beliefs and definitions. Then we can see how, whether or not, and this is a baby step journey, but more and more we can align with the true nature of life and God and truth, the true nature of health and peace and joy, by simply just being willing to remove that which is not in alignment with that, which, in this book, Ernest Holmes is calling quote unquote evil. But if that doesn't resonate with you, that term, just think about again, what's in alignment with truth and joy and health, and what is not. So with that being said, one final message here we're going to get is from the Intuitive Eating book. And I did this on the other one too. I picked it up at a certain place, and I did that again. So I think that's where we're going to go here. Oh, and quickly too, if you've never listened to my body wisdom readings, I typically use this Intuitive Eating book because it was such a powerful trajectory changing book in my life. And so if you've never heard of it, I really highly suggest that you check it out if this reading is resonating. Okay, factors that promote or interfere with intuitive eating. Studies, that is so interesting, actually. Wow. Because that's like another way to say what we were just saying. So like, essentially, intuitive eating is natural, like love is, right? God is. Intuitive eating, us tapping into what our body needs and what our body is telling us to eat, is a natural process. So we just have to look at factors that interfere, blocks to the awareness of love's presence. What did Ernest Holmes call it? False consciousness. So again, this Four of Swords and Page of Swords in reverse. Wow, you cannot make this stuff up sometimes. That's wild. Okay. Studies show that there are many factors that influence intuitive eating, such as comments and feeding practices by parents and caregivers, self-silencing of thoughts and feelings, body acceptance and appreciation, and cultural westernization, including exposure to weight stigma and diet culture. These studies are described in the following sections: parent/caregiver feeding practices and eating messages, parental feeding practices. Galloway and colleagues evaluated the impact of parental feeding practices on intuitive eating and the body mass index with a novel study design. Nearly 100 college-age students and their parents completed retrospective questionnaires of parental feeding practices regarding the college students' childhood. Example of the questions include: did your parents keep track of blank? Sweets, snack foods, and high-fat foods you ate. Next, the research measured the students' intuitive eating levels using the TICA's intuitive eating scale. The results showed that parental monitoring and restricting of food intake has a significant impact on their college students' emotional eating and intuitive eating scale scores. Parents who monitored and restricted their daughters' eating had daughters who A, reported significantly more emotional eating, and B, were less inclined to eat for physical reasons of hunger and satiation. The association was different for the male college students. Parents who recollected restriction of their son's food intake did not report higher emotional eating. This might be due to the difference of social pressure for women to conform to the thin ideal. The researchers concluded that controlling feeding practices by parents has the potentially long-term consequences and may contribute to the development of emotional eating. Wow, I'm just like blown away, because that it literally was the same message from A Course in Miracles, which, I guess the Course in Miracles one I didn't open to, but hopefully you understand, like, I was feeling called to say it because that's what this reading was giving me. Then we open the Love and Law book, and then we open this, and basically what they all are saying is that which is good, that which is natural, that which is love, that which is health, that which is joy, that which is peace, all of that is natural. right? And our choice is not whether we can author it or not. It's just, do we get in alignment with it or not? Do we remove the blocks? And then realizing, I mean, I think what the intuitive eating book just said, which is interesting, or what it gave the example of or illustrated, is how these blocks can come to be. So in terms of our physical health and intuitive eating, it was like, how our parents dictated how we relate to food, then has effects on us, more long term, right? And so those are the sort of things that are, if they were more in alignment with the natural order of things, then they would have helped us grow in our relationship with our body and food and so on and so forth. And if they weren't, then that's understandable, and it creates blocks in our psyche that are blocking that which is natural and that which is good. And so those are the things that have to be processed in order to remove those blocks. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's cool because we went from very ethereal, like, what are we talking about? We're talking about God suddenly in a body wisdom reading. And then we opened intuitive eating and it's saying the exact same thing, but it's giving a very like concrete way that this might play out. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that goes back, it kind of brings the reading full circle, which is one of the first things I noticed about this was the imagery, the coloring and the energy. And that was like the root chakra, so your lower level physical chakras with the crown chakra, right? And so how they're all like interacting and working together. And I think then I felt called to go to A Course in Miracles. So it was very ethereal and spiritual. And then we end with intuitive eating, which is giving a very concrete, grounded example of how these blocks happen and how sometimes they are more ethereal and spiritual. But then sometimes the blocks are happening in a very tangible sense, in ways that are affecting, like just day in and day out, affecting our physical body. And like, think about it, you have to eat like 3 times a day, right? We have to eat to survive. And so when we have relationships with food and our bodies that are blocked, so there's all these things blocking the natural order and the good, that's a lot of times we have to deal with that day in and day out. So sometimes like looking at just the practicalities of life and us as physical beings and how we're relating to things like our physical body and eating is actually a very spiritual act, because otherwise, that's 3+ times a day, even more, that we think about food, right? That we're blocking. And so when we can, in all aspects of our life, look at how those, being willing, so we don't have to look at them all the time or all at once, but just as things arise, as difficulties and discomforts arise, being willing to look at how that might not be the natural order of things, but instead it might be where a block is surfacing and trying to tell us that it's there, it is ready to be looked at and removed, then we can make progress in any area of your life, whether it is very ethereal and creative and spiritual, or it is tangible and physical and grounded and concrete. This is like a equation, so to speak, of just how do we make progress? Because it can be confusing here. As humans on planet Earth, right? Like, how do you make progress? Well, this is telling you in any area of your life, you assume health is natural, and you assume if there's difficulties, there's just an assumption that's been made that is a block to that which is good. And then willingness is the magic key. I'm willing to see this different. Willingness to, instead of tell life and love and God what it is, instead then willingness to listen and change our minds. Is key, which then changes our bodies and changes our lives. So wow, this has been really powerful. Thank you for allowing me to read for you. What a cool reading. And if you're willing to hear a lot of this, I think you're just on the precipice of such power and flow.